the Bible is really, in many ways, one long story between God and his people. He created the people, they rebelled, he brought them back, and it's his history of making provision to reestablish that relationship and then how we're going to be together as a family at the end. And in many ways, marriage is a microcosm. It's a small picture of that relationship where we're building a history as a family, a history that's participating in the story of redemption. And what I love about that is that when you look at the history of God's relationship with Israel, they went through some really difficult times. Times where God was angry at Israel, Israel was frustrated with God, times when Israel was unfaithful to God, times when not much was happening. I think of the time between the Testaments, when the last prophet spoke in the Old Testament and John the Baptist came in the New. That was 400 years of basically nothing. It seemed like there was this silent period. And yet there were times of great joy and celebration. I think of when Solomon dedicated his temple, and it was like an infatuated love fest where Israel was excited to be God's people. God was excited to be Israel's God. And it mirrors to me what happens in marriage. There are times of great joy and celebration. There are times when not much is happening. There are times of frustration and anger. And in some cases, there might even be times of infidelity. But all of those seasons together are weaving a story, the story of a couple building a life together. And what I desire to see is couples get a sense of the sacredness of this story, the unique story that they're building, how it's part of God's larger redemptive story. Because a story is something you build. It becomes ever more important through the years. If your marriage is based on infatuation and romance, that's something that tends to fade. And how do you recapture it when it gets back? If you're writing a story, you're just adding another chapter. Maybe this is a scary chapter. Maybe this is a funny chapter. Maybe this is a frustrating or hurtful chapter. But it's all a part of your story. We get one chance in this life, to be honest, to write a story like this that will be a lifelong story. And if we can just get a sense of the sacredness of that story, I think it will give new purpose and meaning to our marriages and help us through those chapters that on their own we might not appreciate, but as part of the story, we understand their purpose and can even begin to value them later on after the story's been written.